Here and thank Effie for gathering us together for this important conversation and discussion about international trade, especially with the country of Nigeria. And we're so honored and pleased to have dignitaries from Nigeria here with us. For those who don't know me, I am Alicia Bell, the chair of the Wayne County Commission. This is the commission floor of Wayne County, and this is our boardroom. So again, thank you all for making time out of your day to come and have this very important discussion. I think we may have some people to Zoom in a little later on, but for now, it's just us, and we have members of the audience here as well. So, what I'd like to do first, so that we could all get to know each other, if we could introduce ourselves and discuss maybe just briefly what your role is and what you would like to see in economic development and trade with other countries, particularly Nigeria, as those where our guests are from today, and what your desires are, what you'd like to see, what you're currently doing, and then we'll start the conversation, and I'll turn it over to Effie to introduce our guest. So again, Alicia Bell. I've been the chair of the Wayne County Commission for 6 years now. I've been on the county commission for about 21 years. I know I started when I was 10. So it's been a very long but fantastic journey here on county government. I've been on the Port Authority, and I've served on the as president of the National Association of Black County Officials, and numerous other positions nationally and here locally on many boards local. Wanting to make sure that we have a great dialogue. When I sat on the Port Authority, one of the things that we were interested in was how we can do international trade. And since I've been gone from the Port Authority, those conversations have escalated, and I'm so glad about that. So I think this is a prime opportunity for us to see what we can do here in Wayne County, the state of Michigan, the city of Detroit, as we look at trade internationally. We are prime being right here on the Detroit River and the St. Lawrence waterways, as well as the dynamic airport that we have, and of course with rail, because we have the train station. So we have everything for transportation and everything to make this partnership work. So again, thank you all for coming. I will turn it over to maybe I'll have Effie and guests go last. I'll start right here, ma'am. If you could, and if you could pull down the microphones and hit the bottom for the green button to come on, that means that we can hear you. Thank you. And you can, they move.
All right. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. And Effie, thank you for the invitation, and to our dignitaries. I'm just pleased to meet all of you and everyone here. My name is Elaine Gregory McKenzie, and I am here on behalf of two organizations. I'm a part and joint venture partner with SGGI Qatar, and we are in domiciled, obviously, in Qatar, but we have local offices here. I thought our partner would be here, which is Pascal Upabi, and so he's a Nigerian attorney that hopefully will make this meeting. So that's Green Sand, and we have funding, and we are working and looking forward to working with our partners overseas. I'm also here on behalf of TMB Global Foundation, and we are a nonprofit, and we also are formulating presently a global chamber, to work with persons doing feasibility studies and funding. So thank you for the invitation. I'm pleased to be here.
Did I do that right? Yep. I'm glad to be here. My name is Mark Schrupp. I'm the director of the Detroit Wayne County Port Authority. We're a governmental entity that was created by Wayne County and the city of Detroit, and our mission is to promote international trade using the waterways and promote economic development for Southeast Michigan. We're currently bringing in about 10 million tons of cargo per year, but we're looking to diversify, and we've been doing research around trade through to Europe and back, and also to the Middle East and Africa. And so we're anxious to hear more about two-way trade. We have a lot of agricultural exports. We have automobiles, of course. But there's a lot of sort of physical assets here in Southeast Michigan. We are sort of in the center of the third largest economic entity in the world. If you look at all the states that touch the Great Lakes on both sides, Canada and the US, it would be the third largest economy in the world. So we're a great spot to be, and we're open to having discussions about two-way trade.
Being here.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Wayne County. It's nice to meet you all. My name is Mark Crane. I'm the Deputy Director of Economic Development here at Wayne County, standing in today for our Director, Hassan Sheikh, who sends his regards. Our team is responsible for spurring business development and the general economic well-being of Wayne County residents. We have a number of divisions. We handle things like housing and sustainability, property disposition, but we also handle business attraction and retention, supporting local small businesses. So, in terms of the local West African business community, we want to be a resource for expansion efforts, talent attention, and retainment, attraction and retainment, excuse me. And so our team business attraction, site selection opportunities in Southeast Michigan. And we work with a number of partners like the Detroit Regional Partnership, the Aerotropolis. When we talk about warehousing and manufacturing, we talk about modalities that you need to transport products you might be importing here. The Aerotropolis is a major resource that we can connect you to and facilitate business with. So just eager to hear more about your needs today and how we can be helpful in Wayne County economic development.
Thank you, Mark.
Hi, everybody. Again, glad to be here. I'm a colleague of Mark's, and I'm Lauren Strickland with Wayne County Economic Development. Very, very happy and excited to spur this conversation around international trade. As Mark mentioned, we work closely with the DRP, Detroit Regional Partnership. We also work very closely with the Michigan Economic Development Corporation, who spurs a lot of conversations around international trade, specifically working with different countries such as yourself. And so we are very, very happy, again, to be here to spur this conversation around small business, but also around heavy industry as well.
Thank you, Lauren.
Good afternoon and welcome. I'm Lucius Anthony. I'm the Assistant Director of Economic Vitality. When you go last, your colleagues typically take every talking point that you have, but I would just like to echo what Mark says is that Wayne County is very diverse. One of the most diverse counties in the country, and diversity is the key to exports. When you're talking about automotive, renewable energy, and that's what we want to continue is to diversify exports here in Wayne County as well. So thank you and welcome.
Thank you, Lucius.
Good afternoon. My name is Lakita Henderson, and I'm the Michigan District Director of the Small Business Administration. My responsibility is the entire state, all 83 counties, and my role is to help cultivate and create and build the ecosystem for the small business engine. But also with that, we're charged to help our diaspora communities. And the African is a diaspora community that we've been working with. We've created a relationship. We've been working with GABA. Our Administrator Guzman has traveled to Africa to talk about how we can help export as well as help the African diaspora community within the small business realm within the United States. So that's our goal. It's to help those in our underserved, which they are underserved as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
So good morning. My name is Effion Ingram Jr. Effie is my dad. I'm here representing African Expo, as well as I'm an account manager at DT Energy. I work with our municipalities. Wayne County is one of my customers, as well as City of Detroit, DPS, and other various municipalities. So happy to be here.
Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome. I am blessed to be from both sides of this conversation. Originally, I'm from Nigeria. I went to school back home. I was a civil engineer, structural engineer, did universal basic education, where I built schools in all the 773 local government of the country. So I brought that experience over here. Currently, I'm the director for our Department of Public Services, where we have responsibility over roads, bridges, and all of that infrastructure to maintain and build them. I will be interested in listening to the vision that your honorable selves have to share. And if there's a way we can support that, it would be good to be involved in the collaboration to benefit both sides of this conversation. So thank you very much for having me.
Thank you. Did you give us your name?
Dayo, Akinyemi. Ola Dayo, Akinyemi.
Thank you, Dio. All right, Effie, you want to introduce our guest?
Just very quickly, thank you very much for the opportunity. I thank the chair. Yes, and because she has been very supportive for years. Yes, of the African World Expo, and I'm happy that they are here too. But I'm not going to say too much. I'll let them say, talk about Nigeria and see how we can connect. But what I would like to say and suggest, pending the next event, maybe next year, that the focus is about connecting with Africa, US with Africa. And one of the things I would like to mention is that ever since I've been here, I don't see too much discussion about relationships between US and Africa. The policy to make sure that things happen. Sometimes I wonder why do we focus? Although there's nothing wrong to focus with China, Taiwan, and other countries, but Africa has everything, the resources. China gets all those things from Africa. Taiwan, the same thing. India, everybody. So my point is, I say, that's the point that I would like to focus, I would like us to focus to try to change that mentality, of neglecting Africa when everything is from there. Yes. So that's my future, future push. But talking about the honorable minister, and the senator, we have been friends for quite a while, going back to years. And I've always known that he's a very, very humble guy. Yes, very humble guy, And when I first met him, we connected right away. As a matter of fact, at that time, it was the mayor of Abuja, the new capital, Nigeria. Yeah. So we became friends, and that is what has happened, to what we are here to do. So I thank him for also coming, because he's a very busy guy. I had to really pull him. He can tell you, I had to pull him because he's so busy, but he said he will come, to support. So I thank him too. Yeah. And then coming back to the senator, we are from the same area, Akwa Ibom. Although I was born in Lagos, I was born in Lagos, but I'm from Akwa Ibom State, and he has been a very close friend too, that is humble, hardworking, and try to help others, because leadership is about bringing others up.
Yes.
Leadership, bring others up. And he's like that. That's why I said that, they should come. There are other Nigerians too that are very good, but so hopefully in the near future, we'll be able to meet some more of them so that we can really connect the way we should connect. So I'll let them asking from your
Yes,
permission, so
absolutely,
that they
yes.
could then talk about Nigeria, talk about the relationship, talk about what we can do to concretize support. Yeah,
Okay,
so
so-
I let
Yes.
you both.
Senator Sampson, floor is yours. Floor is yours, sir. You're on. Yep, there you go.
Chairman, my minister, members of your great team, I'm very proud to be here. I've been here a couple of times through a fee. I think this one is special because I'm coming as a senator. I came earlier as a mayor, but now I'm coming as a senator. So I'm very happy to be here. Let me thank him for what he has been doing, to thank your commission for what you've been doing. My name is Ekong Samson. There's a P to the Samson, like Samson of the Bible. So it's easier to appreciate my name. I represent Akwa Ibom South in the Nigerian Senate. Akwa Ibom South is also called Eket Central District. Eket. Eket is E-K-E-T. My district has the largest oil and gas reserves in my state, and we contribute a great deal to the Nigerian economy because our economy is largely oil-driven. It's all that drives our economy in Nigeria. So my central district is a major contributor to the Nigerian economy, and we'll have a lot of potentials in oil and gas. It's littoral, it's water-driven, it's a littoral part of the country, and we have the longest shoreline in Nigeria, 129 kilometers stretch. In the Nigerian Senate, I chair the Senate Committee on Solid Minerals, gold, diamonds, lithium, barite, zinc, a whole package of commodities. So there are a lot of potentials for us through the mining sector, because we do a lot of mining in Nigeria. So we can look at oil and gas from my central district. We can also look at the opportunities in mining in solid minerals. So I'm happy to be here, and I thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Senator. Thank you. And congratulations on your new position as Senator. We look forward to you coming back to Wayne County and state of Michigan as many times as you'd like. So this won't be the last. Minister?
Thank you so much.
There you go. Yeah.
My name is Zephaniah Gisalo, Minister of Special Duties and Intergovernmental Affairs. I've been a mayor or chairman in Abuja Municipal Area Council in 2004. I've been in the Parliament, House of Representatives, Assembly 7, and Assembly 8. Then appointed now as a minister, special duties and intergovernmental affairs. Having experience in the issue of local authorities, I have a lot of ideas on what to do for the people at the grassroots level. And being in the parliament, I've had experience in making laws for the people of the country. And I have chaired so many committees in the parliament, at the local level, at the state level, and then at the federal level. Appointing me as a Minister of Special Duties and Intergovernmental Affairs, and I feel that the President, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, with the Renew Hope agenda, he has proposed where I should be Minister of Special Duty and Intergovernmental Affairs. The activities there is all about the local authorities, the local government affairs, the chieftaincy affairs are all domiciled in the ministry. And I also talk of collaboration, intergovernmental, bring the synergy, cooperation, organize within the ministry, department, and the agencies, liaising to make sure that there should be collaboration, working together as a team to have success of the Renew Hope agenda. And we'll be working tireless to make sure that there should not be any rancor within the government of the agencies. My duty too is to see how we can promote partnership, collaboration, private sectors to come and investment in the country. So one of the issues that I do is to talk to the business people who are ready to partner with Nigeria, to partner with government, to change into economy of the country. So I'm here for some discussions who are ready to partner with us, who are ready to do investment. Like my senator said, senator is my boss. I cannot be confirmed as a senator without clearing me. Though I've been in the parliament just like him before coming to this side. But the whole thing is that we are ready.
And that we serve together as mayors.
We were local government chairman in 2005 together.
Nice. All right.
So,
awesome.
but he is still in the parliament now. I'm not in this way too.
Okay.
So,
I've done it for a long time.
Yeah, we've been together. And before I stop, let me appreciate my dear brother. It's, yeah, for his connectivity that he been doing for Nigerians. I have known him for 17 years now. I was still a local government chairman, just mayor in Abuja, that FCT as a city. And I have a conference in Atlanta, Alabama, and I was able to visit the mayor of Tuskegee. So I was there with them and things like that. So I want to appreciate you for what you have been doing, a wonderful thing you have been doing for our country. And I can see the relationship here, that you're a wonderful man. So let me commend you that you should continue with this job, even that you're getting old, but notwithstanding, someone should be able to take over from you. Now that I've seen your son here, so I believe that he's going to take over from you, so that all good things that you have been doing, we continue. I'm not in doubt that whatever he has put in place here, that he can do it. I know his capacity. So let me say I'm grateful to God and also grateful to the chairperson, for allowing us to be here. So I'm grateful. We wish, even after our discussion, we will also replicate why we invite you. And all of you, I can as well host you.
Oh, well, I'd love to come. Just let me know when.
So thank you so much.
Thank you, Minister. Thank you, Senator. Thank you again for traveling all the way to be here. And hopefully this will be a beneficial trip for you and you will gain some knowledge. You talked about partnership collaboration, and that's where it starts. Once we have those collaborations, we get to know each other, see what our needs are, and then we can work together. This is going to be a very informal discussion. We don't have to wait for anyone to recognize you. If you have a thought, if you have something you'd like to share or something that'll be beneficial to the group, just go ahead and spit it out. But I'll start with maybe as we talk about partnerships, collaborations, what do you see? What would you like to see Wayne County working with Nigeria? What can we do? In your thoughts on making trade easier or making business partnerships easier and better? What would you like to see from Wayne County, state of Michigan perspective?
Well, two prongs. my senatorial district, my committee, from my.
Turn it back on for me. Yeah. Okay, good.
Maybe I should start from the area of oil and gas. My central district is rich in oil and gas,
Mm.
and I think there could be some form of collaboration in that respect of oil and gas. On the national level, we can talk about solid minerals, investments in huge deposits, in gold, diamonds, in lithium. It's been well known that Nigeria is hugely endowed. We have a lot of resources in Nigeria, mostly largely unexplored. Nigeria is one of the most endowed countries in the world. So much lies beneath the earth in Nigeria. So I think we can collaborate in respect of training. We can have our sister state programs where we share ideas in training, build up capacity. It's very important. We can build capacity. We can also explore areas of investments in those sectors, in oil and gas, in solid minerals, the rest of the stuff.
Okay. And I don't want to put Mark on the spot, but from the Port Authority standpoint, what have been the conversations on what we can do, should do when it comes to trade with our international partners?
One area that we're working on right now is to understand the supply lines for EV battery production. Michigan is building, there are 5 battery plants within the state over the next few years, and that will require imports of lithium and carbon to make those batteries. And we're not sure if they will come through the Seaway or they will come to the coast, Savannah or Houston, and then come via train. But we're trying to connect with the 5 different companies that are building those plants and ramping up for EV battery production. So that's the number one thing. We also have been engaged with the Global African Business Association to help find ways to help their members who are small business owners here in Michigan import the products that they get from Africa and specifically Nigeria. So looking at ways to accumulate the different kinds of cargo so that there's sufficient volume to justify ships coming all the way to Detroit. That's one of the challenges, is that if it's 1 container or 2 containers, then it's probably not going to justify a full ship. But if you can have a ship full of lithium or other things, then that ship can also take things back, whether it's parts, automobile parts. I know there's a demand for automobile parts around the world. Michigan is the 9th largest exporter of agricultural products in the U.S. We have a real diverse range of agricultural products, so we're looking at ways to promote Michigan exports. But we also want to learn what other kinds of commodities or manufactured goods or other things would be in demand in Africa, or what other kinds of things Africa, beyond the minerals, is producing that might have a market here in Michigan, and then can serve as a distribution point for all of the Midwest. So within 4 hours, you have Toronto, major markets in Chicago, Cleveland, Milwaukee. So from this point, you can reach think it's 150 million people. So it would be a good place to center a lot of trade. So we're looking at ways to develop that kind of a intermodal facility here in Detroit.
Yeah, and to that end, and I go to our economic development department. Mark is speaking of the port, which you can see the beautiful Detroit River right over there. But as far as economic development for Wayne County, have we had conversations? And I think we have had conversations with the state of Michigan, because we can look not just here in the county, but the entire state to see what the needs are in the state and how we can be the catalyst for that movement of goods here in Wayne County from Nigeria, from other countries in Africa. So have you all had those conversations with MEDC at all?
So we haven't had conversations with MEDC specifically about sourcing from Africa, but we certainly can open up that conversation. We were actually just with the MEDC about 2 weeks ago and really sort of reaffirming that partnership and Wayne County's sort of role in attraction to the state as a whole. So as my colleague Lauren mentioned, MEDC typically leads all the trade missions, especially international trade missions. But to the extent that that we can help facilitate that or join those to help identify opportunities specifically within Wayne County, we'd love to do that. A lot of what Mark said really resonated with me in terms of the minerals necessary for battery production. That was certainly coming to mind. Other types of supply chain resources for the mobility space. So if autos are a big export of Nigeria to the US, how do we pivot that into EV vehicles and sourcing parts for EV vehicles, as Mark was sort of alluding to? I would also mention I think there's some value in us trying to stoke the relationship between the Black tech startup scene in Southeast Michigan and the Black tech startup scene in Nigeria. For what it's worth, the sort of startup space in this part of the state, amongst the Black community in particular, the African community is highly represented, and there are a lot of startups coming out of the African diaspora community here. And so to the extent that we could be making connections along those lines, I think would be valuable. And then I would also just add, for us, supporting local entrepreneurs is a huge emphasis, especially over the next year or so. We'll be rolling out a lot of resources for small business support. And so if there are sort of folks from the diaspora who are operating small businesses here that are already connected to supply chains in Nigeria, if there are ways that we can help boost those individual entrepreneurs, connecting them to capital, connecting them to other mentorship opportunities in this area, potentially even collaborating, bringing in federal capital to support expansion projects, and in that way grow that relationship between this region and your countries. I think that's something we should explore.
Absolutely. And that's a great segue into our Michigan SBA. As you work with small businesses across the state of Michigan, have you tapped into the different countries in Africa and the small businesses here and the relationship between the two?
I was actually nodding my head as he was speaking because that's exactly what the Small Business Administration is trying to do. We're trying to tap into the community that's here, that's already exporting. And we're offering, we actually have, well, there was supposed to be another person here with me to speak about our exporting because we have some access to capital programs to help encourage exporting to other countries. And that I can give information on, but I don't have it right now. But we're encouraging that. We have, certain amount we can lend to help to encourage that exporting. So, to African diaspora businesses. So that's one of our major pushes. But yes, you have to tap into that community right now to encourage them to do that. As well as on the other end, our leadership has traveled over there to encourage them in terms of how that can support, how we can support encouraging them to export as well to the United States. But he hit the nail on the head. It starts right here with the small business community, and if we can get them support they need and the access to capital to exporting, that can get that can be phenomenal for them.
And I think, we are right at the cusp of moving this forward. There's been conversations that I spoke of for a few years now, but I think we're right at the point where people are getting serious about what we can do with import, with export, with supporting our small businesses from Africa countries and what we can really do. And I think there is movement now more than ever before with that. So it's very important that the senator and the minister are here because they are now the face and we can actually have some collaboration discussions face to face with folks who are over there and what we can actually do. Again, how we're situated right here in Michigan makes us the perfect location to have this from the port and what we're doing in the Port of Detroit, Wayne County Detroit Port Authority. About EVs, because that is the wave of the future. I mean, it's here. The different vehicles are now all going to have the batteries, and the sources are coming. The minerals and everything to make those lithium are coming from Africa, and say Nigeria, and all the minerals. So this is the moment, I think, right now that we can really make an impact for small businesses and really have those partnerships for Wayne County, particular, because we can lead it here in the state with Nigeria and the other countries, because we're at that moment right now. I mean, right, it's been coming, but now it's here. And we have to capitalize on that moment right now to make sure that we are empowering people who are already here in this space, and then new businesses who would like to get in this space, and making sure that we're encouraging our entrepreneurs and letting them know. With the tech piece, we have Black Tech Saturdays, and that'll be tomorrow. Upstart with some dynamic African Americans. And like you said, folks from the African continent are heavily in that space right here in Southeast Michigan. So just putting all of the parts together and dotting all the I's is something that we need to seize the moment right now. Okay?
Yeah, thank you. I just want to add to what everyone has said here. I mean, I'm just, again, pleased to be here. And so our organization, SGGR Qatar, and if some people say Qatar, we say Qatar, most people. But so depending on where you're from, but we are interested, and also through TNB Global, with the chamber that we are now embarking on, we are interested in doing training in Africa and collaborating with people like GABA. We're familiar with GABA, the organization. They're doing a lot.
Yeah.
So we are actually interested in doing things in a two-way, not just pulling resources from Africa, but also investing in Africa and bringing training there to see what we can do. Personally, I feel like a lot has been extracted from the continent, and people come and they want and take. Right. And so we spoke about China, we spoke about Taiwan, but what we want to do is figure out how we can come and invest in the country, bring resources there, build up and help build up the citizens there, and bring that relationship organically from that position where we're investing in Africa, and then actually bringing organizations, small businesses, to work with people there. So we want to see what that looks like. We haven't quite figured out how that looks like. We need to talk to people in position, empower with the stakeholders. We don't want to just make those assumptions. So I'm glad that you're here today. So maybe we can start to have that conversation. And we do have the resources.
Absolutely. And we do have a new person at the table, sir. You want to introduce yourselves? You came after our introductions. Yeah.
Sure. Hi. Excuse me. Hello. This is Elroy Sayer, born and raised in the great city of Detroit in Michigan.
Elroy is here.
I am now. Yes, I've been in Washington, D.C., in our nation's capital for the last 20 years. But I'm very excited to be a part of this conversation. Love to give you any insights on what I've seen as it relates to helping President Clinton, President Bush, President Obama, and President Trump working on things like the AGOA, Africa Growth and Opportunity Act. I was one of the lead staffers to help write that bill many years ago, and we're still excited about it. I've been in 23 African countries with Clinton, Obama, Bush, and other administrations. So I've got a keen understanding of what's going on between the relationship between the U.S. and Africa, the African continent, but more importantly, between Black business men and women who are trying to strengthen economic and cultural ties between both our country and the continent. So thank you. I'm excited to be a part of the discussion.
Thank you, Elroy. Hopefully you can hear me as well.
Yes, I can.
Elroy, we grew up in the same neighborhood, as I understand.
All
Over
right, which
by
name?
Mackenzie High School. Now, I'm taking this way offline here, because we have, and it's funny, you know people who know people, especially Detroit. There's 2 degrees of separation. So, Elroy, I grew up right over there by Mackenzie, and I think Elton Gunn and some other folks are friends of ours.
Oh, oh man. Okay. Yes, yes,
And I
yes,
was in
yes.
DC about 8 years ago, and we were with the with Spencer's organization. But your work in DC and what you've been able to do is so very important and so very germane to this conversation, because we're talking about, of course, what we can do locally here in Detroit, Wayne County, and Michigan. But you're taking it a step further as you talk about what's going on at the United States level and how we can use our partnership with United States with countries like Nigeria and other countries in the continent of Africa. So if you can maybe talk a little bit about what you've done, what you've seen over the last few years as it relates to trade with different countries in Africa and what we can do to enhance that and increase that trade?
Sure. So one, the most important thing is to get your legislature, whether it's the mayor, county executive, your state reps, the 2 U.S. senators from Michigan, and your Congress people, your two Congress people from southeastern Michigan or from the Detroit area. Most important thing is to go by their offices, one, visit with them, give everybody a copy of the AGOA legislation. It was the first piece of trade legislation, most comprehensive, and the first piece of trade legislation that the United States has ever had with an African country. And I believe it's 11 or up to 13 countries now. So just go online, get a copy of that, research it. Once you understand it, one or two, contact your elected officials on the federal level and let them know that you support this. And if there's other things that you would like to see included from different types of products that you may be exporting or importing that may not be on the list, tell them they should consider adding it. Two, if there's different types of resources that you need vis-a-vis marketing, vis-a-vis technical, make a point of it. Send that to the members of Congress. Tell them you would like that budget to be increased for marketing or technical or travel or things of that nature. So I think what I've learned in being in Washington for the last 30 years is people who are not in Washington, they don't necessarily think that they have the power or the influence or the ability to make change. You can. So that's one. I would say get the legislation, read it, review it. If there are things in that legislation that you would like to see individually, just call your member of Congress or go to their district office and visit with them and talk to them. Collectively, the African diaspora here in the U.S., here in Michigan and southeastern Michigan and Detroit in particular, work with anyone who you can, the coalition of willing, and come up with a letter. Draft a letter, put as many names on it as you can, and send that letter in with some of the things that you would like to see changing on the bill. So those are the specific things that you can do immediately. Next, what else can you do? You've got an election right now coming up. You've got 2 U.S. senators. Debbie Stabenow is retiring. Bless her heart, I know her well. She's been very helpful in a lot of things that we focused on for Detroit and Africa over the years. But now you've got Mike Rogers and you have the Democrat. I'm drawing a blank on the lady's
Elizabeth
name who's running
Slotkin.
for Senate.
Elizabeth
Slotkin.
Mm-hmm.
Elizabeth Slotkin. You have 2 great people, in my opinion, running. But people are only as great as the information we give them. So I would host a forum. I would invite both of them to come. Go find a Black-owned restaurant in Detroit. Invite both of them to come, sit down, and talk to them about AGOA and other trade legislations. You got about 62 days. I can help you do that. We should get them there, and we should talk to them about our issues. They're going to be one of them is going to be in Washington next year, and one of them will be one of 100 that will be able to cast a vote on whether or not we can increase support and budget for things like AGOA. So that's the second thing I would do immediately in the next 60 days to influence the ability for our people here in Detroit and our brothers and sisters over on the continent to do more business and cultural things together. So those are probably, there's 101 things that I can talk about, but I like to get very specific in terms of what can we do immediately to make immediate change. One, read the legislation, find out what more you would like to see in it, contact your members of Congress, explain that to them. 2, get as many people as you can, get a letter drafted, then send that letter to those members of Congress. And 3, invite both U.S. senators to a lunch or breakfast or dinner, talk to them about the legislation. So no matter who gets into power, you've got a friend that's going to know that these are your concerns. And I can talk about a lot more things if you'd like, but I wanted to just really give some action items. My mom was a preacher, so the old preacher person, the preacher son, the PK kid in me, you know, when preachers get up and they start talking, they leave you with 3 things to do. If y'all know what I'm talking about.
Right.
they always tell you, I need you to do these 3 things. So those are 2 things that I would recommend that we do to strengthen those relationships. But more broadly speaking here, in terms of just the mood and the disposition, this past year, we had not seen a lot of movement coming out of Washington as it relates to trade in Africa. In the U.S., I think part of that is because we've just been so inundated with Russia, Ukraine, the Middle East, and Gaza. So sometimes what happens, unfortunately, and this is not germane to Republican or Democrat, it's just global events. When we have big global issues that are teeter-tottering on security issues, it's hard for our American officials to get focused on trade as much as we would like, unless it's directly related to those particular conflict areas. So this past year, we quite frankly did not see as much trade discussion as it relates to the continent of Africa or any of those countries. However, this is what I would tell you. If these conflicts continue into next year, what I used to do when I was on Capitol Hill and when I was speaking back with my friends and allies in Washington, I would say, well, okay, what can we still do? We know the country is not necessarily focused on trade right now, but we have AFRICOM. AFRICOM is one of our national bases, and they have a huge presence on the Gold Coast. I believe they're actually stationed in Nigeria. So yes, the members of Congress may not be talking about trade right now. However, we should still engage that discussion because we're talking about security and you're talking about AFRICOM. So what happens is our people, if we're not talking about trade, we just disappear from the conversation. So what we need to do is we need to say, well, okay, we're not talking about a major trade bill. We're talking about security. So let's now weigh into the discussion on global conflicts, and let's talk about it from a security perspective, and let's talk about AFRICOM, which is the Africa base, which is the U.S. base located in Africa, and I believe there's a big station in Nigeria. Now, what you do after you get into that discussion, then you turn that back around to how much water is being supplied to our troops over there. One of our white brothers has the contract, or one of our white sisters has the contract that's supplying water. How much paper towel is being supplied? Somebody is the middleman between Procter & Gamble supplying toothpaste, deodorant, and I'm talking micro business right now. If you're talking 10x American troops on the ground, somebody's got to supply them with equipment, with supplies. So once you get into the discussion about conflict, then you follow that up with supplier development and who's getting the contracts and how do we get on the supplier development list to begin to be one of those small businesses that's a supplier. So again, I'll close out by saying, just because we're not talking about as much about trade in Africa right now as it relates to foreign affairs, the country and our nation's leaders are talking about security. So we just need to talk about security. And as it relates to security, then you bring in your small business issues, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for your wisdom, and your 30 years of experience certainly does show. We thank you for that. Please, hopefully you can stay on the line a little longer and hear the
I sure will.
conversation that we'll continue to have. But these 3 nuggets, then I think the most important thing is going back to the AFRICOM piece is so important because that's how we can engage our small businesses to get engaged with some of those vendor opportunities and procurement opportunities. So thank you for those nuggets. Hopefully we can all take that away, at least from your conversation. And if there's anything else that you'd have that would be beneficial, please just go ahead ahead and go ahead and throw in your comments. And again, we thank you so much for being a preacher's kid. You know how to wrap it up, so we appreciate that too.
Errol,
And Effie says hello.
Errol, how are you?
Hey, brother, thank you for your leadership. Our continued prayers and blessings to you for pulling us together. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem. And then based on what you said, we are about the two. I think Miss the two. The
U.S.
lady
Senator.
and the guy, yeah,
The lady and the guy.
So I'm glad you brought that up because
The Small Business Administration is here as well from Michigan, yes,
yes.
and from Qatar as well. So we're happy. We have a full room. I don't know if you can see us or not, but we have a very diverse room. And the information that you share, I think, is beneficial to all of us and how we can move forward with this. Very good. And as a matter of fact, I'm going to have to. So thank you. So stay around, please, Elroy. We do have someone
Yes,
at
I
the
will.
table who came in after the fact. Sir, I'm speaking to you now. Just introduce yourself, please. He's on the line.
Yeah, okay. Yes,
Can he hear? Mr. Sample, are you there?
Yes, I'm still here.
Okay,
Oh, if you could introduce yourself, please.
Yes, good afternoon. My name is Kevin Sample.
yeah.
I apologize for not being able to be there in person, but I'm actually have a little illness I'm dealing with at the present. But what I wanted to share with you today is, again, the importance of transportation and trade is to Africa. I've been involved with the Regent for about 35 years. One of the principal programs from the Gore program and also President Bill Clinton's trip to Africa back in the late 1990s, I think it was 98, was the growth of a number of technical assistance programs to assist Africa in trade and development. From my perspective, I focus on transportation and trade. One of the things at that time is there was no direct service air service between the United States and Nigeria. In fact, there was actually a security ban for service. So the first thing we did is work tirelessly to lift the security ban and also work to improve safety in Nigeria so that they will meet international standards so that service could be provided to and from Africa. I'm glad to be the author and actually negotiated the Open Skies Agreement between the United States and Nigeria, which allows direct service from Nigeria carriers to fly to the United States to any city in the United States. That was a 6-year Open Skies Agreement, which also now allows the United States to also fly directly. And you've seen United Airlines and other U.S. carriers to fly there as well. Those are all developments in the last 20 years and has enabled expanded trade to direct air service. Now, one of the things we also focus on, because we always believe that transportation is the tie that binds nations together to trade and economic development. So we've actually also focused on developing the maritime system in Nigeria as well. And in my meetings with previous leadership in Nigeria, one of the things we focused on was try to develop Nigeria as a major transportation hub for Western Africa. Given the strong population and technical development and expertise in Nigeria, we thought it would be ideal for it to become the focal point for all trade that flows into West Africa. Thus building, new infrastructure and also building thousands and thousands of jobs for Nigerians. The key here has been to try to privatize the maritime system there, and as well as privatize the rail system so that trade can be expanded. This is has been a challenge, but we have made some major milestones in this effort. And just to look at how important transportation is to economic development, many have witnessed the China's expanded presence in throughout the continent, and especially in Western Africa. And one of the ways they've done that is through transportation. They're able to get the natural resource products of Western Africa, ship those products to China, and refinish them and process them, and then send them to the eastern United States of America as furniture and other items. They can do that cheaper and more efficient than we can ship products from North Carolina here in the United States, a state that's known for furniture development, cheaper than we can do it coming from North Carolina. So a transportation system is so important to expanding trade and economic development. In America, 1 in 5 jobs deals with transportation. So I would encourage my colleagues from Nigeria to look at that as a major development as they go about expanding trade with the United States and other economies as well. What I've done through my career has been to not do this only in Africa and throughout various countries in Africa, but also throughout Asia as well, in Latin America as well. So I have some experience in this area, and I've always been glad to share that with my friends and colleagues in Nigeria. In fact, I was good friends with one of your former presidents, President Obasanjo, back in the early 2000s, which actually gave rise to expanded trade with the United States between Nigeria and the United States through expanding transportation. But the key here, I think, is looking at the products that are being shipped and how we can do them more efficiently throughout our continent, throughout North America, as well as Nigeria. We in the United States are dedicated to that. In fact, the current aid budget for Nigeria is a little over $1 billion a year. And what we seek to do in the future is expand more of those funds for economic and trade development through also assisting the building of infrastructure. It's so important that we work with the World Bank and other lending institutions to develop an efficient transportation system in Nigeria. Just to get a side note, the cost of most products to market is transportation should be around 15 to 20% of the cost. In many places, including in Nigeria, their price is 40% to 60% of the cost of the product. While the labor and the efficiency in Nigeria has increased, we must increase it more so that the cost can go down in terms of the great products that are produced in Nigeria can be shared to the United States at a more efficient cost. We will continue to do this. I'm currently have moved from the federal service. I'm retired, and actually am a trade consultant at the present time. But I think that as we go forward, and I was glad to work with this conference to look at the ideas in terms of how we can expand trade and economic development so that we can efficiently increase the relationship between Nigeria and United States of America. I also want to warrant that as we go forward, hopefully with an administration that will be more welcoming to Africa than the other candidate who's running, we seek to expand that. This has been the case since the Obama administration, the Clinton administration, and hopefully that will continue with the administration of Kamala Harris. we stand ready to work with our partners in Nigeria. And again, I've been doing it for decades and have enjoyed a very efficient and cordial relationship, and see how we can expand this, increase trade through economic development and improving transportation. As we always say, from the transportation world, transportation is a tie that binds. Thank you, and I'm willing to entertain any questions you might have.
Thank you, Mr. Sample. Hopefully you can stay on for a little while longer as we begin to wrap up. But that information that you've shared is wonderful, and I think everyone took heed to it. And because we do know how important transportation is. Before you jumped on the call, we do have also here in our room the executive director of the Wayne Detroit Port Authority. And we spoke about how we can do trade through our maritime, as you mentioned. So we are well aware of the importance of all of the modes of transportation and how important that's going to be as we look at importing and exporting products from Nigeria and other African countries to Michigan, the United States, and Wayne County. So thank you so much for your insight. And there is a question. Go ahead.
Yeah, actually, it's a comment. I was hoping that Attorney Pascal Upabi would be here so that a son of Nigeria would be speaking. But I'm going to go ahead and speak on his behalf because we are joint partners in this company with Qatar. He mentioned, and I don't think I'm out of turn for speaking about it, about a port in Nigeria being developed or some concession that we possibly could bring to assist in the development of that. That's one thing. The other thing, I spoke to the gentleman here in terms of lithium, cobalt, and copper, precious metals, the possibilities of having another plant, a Nigerian-owned plant here in Detroit. It's a bold idea, but I think it's an idea that could happen in terms of a two-way relationship where we are not just taking resources from the continent, but the continent owns something here in Wayne County. I think that that would be a very unique idea, and I think that there's funding for something like that.
I love that. Yeah, we love that. And that's what we talk about, tangible interactions between the continent and here, having a Nigerian-owned plant for the lithium that's big, the batteries are huge. So we can have a ownership of a company, but here in Wayne County in Michigan, that would be a game changer for the trade that we want to do and will continue to do and expand. Yeah.
Giving money back to Nigeria,
Yes,
not
yes.
just taking from the continent.
Yes.
And also organically training simultaneously, giving that, because we have the training, we have the know-how here. So those skills would organically be taken back to Nigeria.
Right.
So I think that is perhaps something that we should consider.
I love that.
And also, just to add to that comment, I also think that would be great to have some investment here because as with all economic development, having a presence, a U.S. presence would be impactful. Also, as economic development professionals, us at Wayne County, and also all of our local partners, we could work with you guys to incentivize and like this young lady was saying, there's funding, there are access to capital, there's resources, site selection. We can work with you guys on all of that to make sure that we could make that vision come to a reality here in the U.S.
Yeah, well, we certainly have land here in Detroit and Wayne County for such a plant. So just getting the particular people of interest together to make that happen is something that would be, I think, amazing. And then that would show other parts of the country that we're doing it here in Michigan. And it's also, of course, a natural fit being the Motor City, how we could have a supplier plant to the car dealerships. That's a thing that could go far and wide for our partnership across the sea and then locally growing that out across the country, our country. So absolutely, great idea.
Adding to that, there's 1,000 acres on the waterfront that is former industrial, ready to be repurposed. And so it all connects to rail, 3 interstate highways, and a short distance to the manufacturing facilities where the cars are being built. So I don't understand why Michigan put battery plants all over the state up in Big Rapids, but that was the decision that was made. But I think having one right on the waterfront connected to rail would make it easier for materials coming in and finished goods going out.
And adding to that for a container cargo area as well for containers. So if we have containers come in, we have a place for them to stop and be stored. That's part of that big vision as well. So we have to make sure that we take all of these ideas, get them in front of the right people, because you sure have business people who would love to come over here, but incentivize them and find the land, which we have land, and just putting the two together to make that happen. Very good. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And I'm going
Excuse
to
me.
have, oh, sure, go ahead.
Yes, let me suggest one thing as well. This is a interesting concept. And in some way that it can be explored further, I would suggest contacting the U.S. Trade and Development Agency. They offer grants to develop proposals to get these type of efforts going forward. So I would suggest that the parties that are interested contact USTDA. They will reach out to you as well, and hopefully a concept proposal can be developed, and this project can move forward.
DA, he says,
Yes, Trade and Development
Trade
Agency.
okay,
Yeah.
absolutely.
I can assist in a feasibility study as well.
So we have feasibility study assistance, we have land acquisition assistance. We have this brownfield, as we all say, well, I think we have the answer all right here in this room. So thank you for that. And I did tell Effie at the beginning that I had an hour of my time that I could give, and I've gone to an hour and a half because it's been such a wonderful conversation, discussion. So I do apologize, but I do have to leave, and I'm going to turn it over to Effie for the balance of the meeting today. But before I do leave, I wanted to make sure that I presented our guest with a small token of appreciation for coming all the way from us. This is a proclamation from the Wayne County Commission with all 15 of our names signed to it. There are 1.8 million people in Wayne County, and we just so appreciate you coming all this way, sharing your thoughts and getting our thoughts, and hoping a partnership is going to be gained from this. So this is a resolution honoring the Senator Sampson. So Senator, thank you. Thank you. We couldn't not have the honorable, just a little minute, just Silo. Just Silo, Minister Silo for you as well. So thank you for coming and being here.
Awesome.
I look forward to seeing you again. Yeah. Thank you. The information that you shared is wonderful. And again, that's a token of our appreciation for you coming and sharing. And hopefully these ideas will lead to something tangible. And before I leave, let's give Effie a round of applause too for bringing it together. I think he's going to have some closing remarks and then leave some time for networking. So again, thank you. We'll make sure that we get everyone's information that's here, so that we continue this conversation and have, again, some tangible results from this discussion and dialogue. So again, thank you all so much for coming. And thank you, Effie. Appreciate you. And we will talk soon and make this a reality. So thank you all so much. Thank you. Thank you.
What an enlightenment. Yes, very happy. I think we have accomplished a great deal, and I'm happy that that everything went as it went. Everything. And I thank everybody too. Before we continue, I think it would be good to have some type of maybe like free discussions or networking. Maybe we spend a little time networking so that we can get information. And then Walter, can you, since can you say a few things too? Because we say what you're doing or what we're doing. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I just want to first of all commend Chairman Bell, even though she's left the room, for convening this meeting today. That's very important. They have our elected officials be involved in this whole process. And also I'd like to again acknowledge Senator Sampson and our Minister Fasalo for visiting us here in Detroit. They've come a long way. It's always good to connect with people from Africa, African Americans. I don't think people on the continent really understand that most Black Americans just have a love for Africa, which is hence the name African American. So we really choose deliberately to connect to Africa and our roots. And so to have you all here is very important to us. You see there's lots of love at this table. Everyone here is very willing to not only work, but offer their support for your ideas and to support you in those ideas and implementation any way that we can. So just be very clear in terms of what you want, and we'll do our best to try and facilitate that. So let me talk a little about myself. For those who don't know me, my name is Walter Corley. I'm a Detroit native, University of Michigan graduate, attended the Antioch School of Law where I majored in international trade law. I have worked in Washington. In fact, I used to work for Congressman John Conyers, who was our longest serving member of Congress in history, not just here in Detroit, but he was one of our first Black congressmen. And he was very instrumental in everything from civil rights legislation, but also trade. So we talked about the AGOA legislation. He was also a co-signer of that. I had the opportunity to work with a group of people that we initiated, including Kevin Sample, who was on the phone. He's been very humble. I'm going to talk about him in a minute as well. But the AGOA legislation was signed under President Bill Clinton. And then President Bush extended that to an AGOA 2. And I was a part of that in terms of the actual drafting of the legislation to create the Africa Growth Opportunity Act, where African countries are beneficiaries of duty-free treatment. The next thing I did, I worked, as I mentioned, for Congressman Conyers. I worked under for the organization called U.S. Conference of Mayors. I worked as a lobbyist. At that time, Coleman Young was was the president of that organization. So I had a chance to work for our former Detroit mayor, who was the first Black mayor of Detroit, who was very, very much involved also in Africa. So much so that Coleman Young is the person who created Detroit Wayne County Port Authority. And so he was the person who had the vision to look at connecting not only Detroit to the rest of the world, but also to Africa. And I was very fortunate to be one of the first staff people to join the Detroit Wayne County Port Authority. I spent 7 years there for the port and became very active in intermodal transportation and trade, and took several trade missions to Africa at the behest again of our Black mayor, Coleman Young. And so there's a long legacy of Detroit Africa connectiveness, and I want everyone to be aware and familiar with that. After that, I had hoped that I would become a director of the Port Authority, but the politics didn't suffice, so I was never named that. But it ended up working out because I was then appointed by President Clinton to work for him at the White House. And so it's actually a greater opportunity. So when one door closes, another one opens, and oftentimes even bigger. And so I spent roughly a year at the White House where I did trade work. I was a liaison to Departments of Commerce, Treasury Department, USAID, you mentioned USTDA, so I'm very familiar with the US government and all of its agencies. And after that, I was appointed to US Customs. So I was a customs official. I had oversight of all U.S. ports of entry for everything coming into the United States and everything leaving the United States, and also worked with all of the major importers and exporters, including the automotive industry extensively. When I returned home to Detroit, I founded a company called Core Logistics, a logistics transportation company. And I did work for GM, Ford, and Chrysler and Toyota, did trucking, ocean freight, air freight. And during that time, I began to do some consulting work. And it was actually Kevin Sample, who headed the Office of International Transportation and Trade in Washington, who sent me to Nigeria to assist the Nigerian government. They had some capacity issues at their seaport, which they still have to this day, that the senator and the minister have been discussing and ways of helping to alleviate some of that. And so I'm hoping we can continue with that as well. Kevin Sample, if any of you have flown directly between the United States and Africa, as I'm sure you all did when you arrived here, Kevin Sample was the person responsible for that. And he really needs to be acknowledged for his efforts because he had to fight for that. It was not easy. It was not given to him. But just so you know that, the person who was on this call earlier is the person who's responsible. Kevin's a very humble person. The other thing he didn't mention is that he also worked for our Detroit Congressman, John Conyers. He worked as part of his Washington staff. In fact, he and I both worked together. So I've known him for many, many years as well. I also mentioned that I worked as a lobbyist. I represent the government of Haiti and work a lot with the Congressional Black Caucus and assisting the Haitian government. And so those are opportunities that we can do also to assist the Nigerian government as well. So I think this is a really great start. Effie, who has done an incredible job. I mean, when a lot of people had no interest in doing things at Effie, Africa, Effie is the person who has really kept the light on and kept Africa on the forefront of our minds. And so I just want to acknowledge him again and give him another round of applause. Thank you.
So I guess, we can start maybe break off for this networking so that we can like network and everybody can write a few things. Then we then close and then so we can have a plan to move forward because most of the time when we have meetings and sometimes it doesn't continue. Yeah. So
Do we have a sign-in sheet? I'd like to get emails and ways
Right.
to communicate so we can set up
Right,
additional
so that
follow-up
you
meetings.
yes, so
That would
that
be
we
great.
can be, yes, even Zooming, make sure that we continue, yeah. Yeah, thank you very much. Oh, yeah, yeah, okay, excuse me, please. Excuse me, please. Okay, yeah, because he had a few things to say, please, before we start the networking. Yeah, no, it's okay, we go ahead, please, yes. Let's listen for a few minutes, then we, yeah. Okay, go ahead, okay, go ahead.
Well, what I need to add is maybe to stress the need for us to continue with what we are doing. Continue to sustain the spirit, as it were. And Africa is not as misunderstood as some are doing. There are lots of potentials, a lot of opportunities in Africa. But I had to come this far with my own minister because of the need for us to sustain the spirit. There's so much for us to get from Africa. There's so much. And it's not as, I don't know what to say. It's not as frightening as some pains. I mean, well, that has to be understood and said very clearly. Because someone say, that Nigeria, this insecurity, Africa is not as bad as portrayed. We have many states in Nigeria that are very peaceful, very, very safe. Like his state, which is also my state, very, very peaceful. You can walk the street free, even late. So there's the security that has to be well made very clear. The country is safe. No place is entirely secure. But I can say that Nigeria is not as portrayed in the media. The country is safe and is open to investment. I was quite excited when a lot of prospects was offered in this meeting through lithium. There's so much. And Michigan is an automobile state, battery and use of batteries and the rest. So we can tap from such enormous potential that Nigeria has in lithium. So I just want to assure that it's not as bleak as portrayed, that there are opportunities, that there's peace, and that Africa is waiting for this embrace. That is the truth. And that's why we are here in person. Thank you.
Senator, we could have given that exact same remarks and just swapped out Detroit for Africa.
Right,
So you don't have to worry. We have no bad assumptions. It's okay.
Yeah, I guess, anybody has anything to say?
Let me just, so
Anybody
traveling into
got something to say? Okay, go ahead. Oh.
traveling into Africa, with the State Department, there was always a warning not to travel, be very careful. And then I got to Nigeria and I talked to Nigerians. They said, "Where are you from?" I said, "I'm from Detroit." They said, "We've heard the same thing about Detroit." Very dangerous. Don't go out. And so we both hear the same thing. So I know better and had a wonderful time, and it was very safe, as you've mentioned. So everyone should know that.
I apologize. I have a meeting I have to attend to, but I'm looking forward to the contact list, and I will send messages and invitations for future discussions, because I'm looking forward to seeing how we can put businesses in your country connected with businesses in ours and vice versa. Yeah, no, let's team up and work on this. Between the US steel sites on the water and DTE sites, 1,000 acres.
Kevin Sample.